Good afternoon.
Hello, is this Kevin?
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining today's webinar and today's live meeting of Manufacturing Committee of HIA-LI. Thank you very much for joining. My name is Kevin Devecioglu. Today I'm with our co-chair, Ran Loveland. So together we'll be presenting you and introducing you our panel as well. Today we'll be talking about predictions, how the life will be, business life will be after COVID-19, and how businesses can be ready for what is coming, for the new normal. As you know, our manufacturing committee, we have various different meetings. Our basic mission is to help manufacturers thrive in Long Island, New York area. And we do this by organizing factory tours, organizing educational webinars. We also organize roundtables, and we also organize panel discussions just like today to help manufacturers and professionals to share information and insights in these, I will say, interesting times. So as you see on the screen, we also have a website that you can visit on HIA-LI's official website. We have a page, and our calendar, our events are also on the calendar of HIA-LI on HIA-LI's official website. So we enjoy working with manufacturers as well as manufacturers, and as you know, we meet regularly on monthly basis. This month we're gonna have two different meetings. One is today, and one is coming tomorrow, I believe. Ron will be sharing some more information with you shortly, I hope. Also, I have to also share some information about the group. We have also a LinkedIn group that I like to share with you for sharing information and content whenever you're available. I also keep the link on the screen so you can join, you can engage with other manufacturing committee members, share some educational content, and stay in touch. As you know, earlier this year we had a couple of meetings. One of them was about digital transformation of manufacturing operations. We met in Microsoft in Garden City. That happened on January 22nd. And also we have another meeting, for example, in February at Summation. We talk about green manufacturing practices, green as in environmentally friendly manufacturing practices. And these both events were great. They were very educational, very informative, and we had a great crowd as always, which we appreciate. Started in the end of March 25th, I will say, we started to do educational webinars. The first one we had was with Kristen Panella from Summit Safety and Efficiency, if you joined us. So we talk about health and safety management in the face of a pandemic, and we talk about many different tactics and strategies as to have a safe and healthy work environment. Following these educational webinar, we also had different subject matters. For example, we talk about the technology in manufacturing. We also talk about marketing for manufacturing companies. We talk about energy management. We talk about quality management systems. So we kept the momentum going during these times of social distancing, and we kept sharing the education information and facilitating events for manufacturers and professionals in the region. Okay, great. So I'd like to introduce Tony Joy from HIA-LI. She was so nice to join us today. I am sure there are some updates, announcements, and news coming from HIA-LI, which are very important that we like to hear. Tony Joy, if you're available, please share with us.
Hi, Kevin, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I just want to give a warm welcome and thank you for everyone who's joining this afternoon. My name is Tony Joy. I am the office manager for the HIA-LI. A big thank you to both Ron and Kevin. They have been doing a phenomenal job with these programmings. I've heard just some really wonderful feedback, and again, as you all may know as well, it's so important that we're continuing to update you and the business community about what to look forward to and things as it relates to this pandemic. So thank you both so much for that. Just a couple updates that I did want to share in regards to what the HIA-LI has been working on. We've been working closely with the state and the SBA, as well as the Suffolk County COVID-19 task force to keep the business community informed on developments of this pandemic. So hopefully you've received a lot of the critical updates and information emails that we've been sending out, just relaying that message. We've had some wonderful webinars and programming with the SBA and SBDC, as well as last week we had a webinar from with Congressman Lee Zeldin, who provided us a little bit more information about what the next the relief packages look like, things like that. So again, really trying to have these robust programmings to help give you guys as much information as possible. We do have some upcoming virtual programs that you can partake in. Tomorrow, actually at 9 o'clock, we have our information meeting. It'll help give you some ideas as far as what you can do with your membership right now. We have some wonderful virtual offerings that we are providing for our members. So it should be a great time, as well as an opportunity to connect and network with some other people. And then we've introduced Happy Hour Fridays, which I'm excited about. So it's through our Zoom platform, and it gives, it's 3:30 to 4:30 on Fridays we're meeting, and it allows, again, it's more of a relaxed atmosphere, but again, gives everybody an opportunity to just talk with one another and again, communicate. And we've been having everyone come to these happy hours and bringing some motivational quotes or songs to share with the group, just to, again, kind of keep everything light and positive. So we've been, you had a great turnout the last 2 Fridays. So if you are interested and able to join us this Friday, we'd love to have you. You can find all updated information as far as our events and our virtual events and other committee meetings on our website. So if you have any questions, you can certainly go there. And we are just excited to continue to bring our members these types of important programming opportunities and information to keep you all as updated as possible. So of course, if you have any questions, you can certainly reach out to any of the staff or give us a call at the office, and someone will be able to help you with that too. So, so with that, I'm going to kind of pass it back to Kevin. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Tony Joy. Much appreciated. Thank you for the insights. And it is great. I mean, HIA-LI keeps going and then keeps sharing content and organizing events and networking. That's also that's very important nowadays, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. Ron, before we jump to our panel, would you like to talk about our next meeting? What is coming up?
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I just wanted to highlight the next meeting coming up next Wednesday, the 13th at 8:30 in the morning. We have an outstanding panel of manufacturing executives here from Long Island. Anchamonka Moore, who is HIA board member, as well as owner and president of GSE Dynamics. Robert Kuffner, president of Designatronics in Hicksville. Bill Nyland, who's director of manufacturing at Electro Industries Gauge Tech. Chris Jakubowski, who's the president of Royal Products right here in Hauppauge. Jane Van Vechten, who's the EVP of Framerica and Shirley. And Tara Montieri, who's the GM of M Factory in Brooklyn. So great panel. They're going to be discussing how COVID has impacted them. Most are essential, but actually Tara's company is not essential. So how do you come back from COVID? What protections, mitigation systems they put in place, you know, from manufacturers to manufacturers. So I hope you can join us.
Thank you so much. So where do they register? On Eventbrite? Must be on the.
All right, that's they can register either on the HIA-LI calendar website, or they can also register on the Eventbrite. But HIA is the first stop for registering for the meeting for next Wednesday, the 13th, 8:30. Hope you can join us.
That sounds great, Ron. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yes, HIA, we do our best to keep HIA-LI's calendar updated. We work close with Tony Joe and Team HIA-LI together to have the latest current updates available in the on the calendar of HIA-LI. So, yes, so we'll keep moving, and we keep basically activities together, and we move on. So let's see what we have. We have a grand panel. I decided to call it grand panel because it really looks grand, and that is great. So this is I'm very excited. First of all, thank you so much for being in the panel. To our panelists, in a short time, we put it together. That's a great. That's that's the value of HIA-LI. I mean, the great professionals. Everyone is experts in certain fields, and we can come together, manufacturers, professionals, and we can share educational content, informative content together. That's a great opportunity. Thank you so much. So what I like to do is I like to make some introductions, and as I made the announcement, we don't use presentation today. The only presentation you'll see is this presentation. So we'll have the conversation, we'll have the discussions. That is what we decided to do. I don't know about you, but I miss talking to people, right? I miss actually networking. So that's a great opportunity for us to really, connect. So I'm very excited about this. So let me introduce our panel. I'll do the introductions, and also, and then we'll start the discussions in a live manner. So first of all, let me introduce Alex Kvartirov. He's a member of HIA-LI. He is a PMP, and he's the owner of Emrys Consulting. He's a certified ISO 9001 lead auditor, and he has a lot of experience in project management and aerospace, coming from Parker Hannifin Corporation, and he is currently consulting for ISO certification for companies in achieving and maintaining ISO certification. And he is also a partner for digital transformation for Bimser solution products. Alex, thank you so much. Welcome. Thank you for joining our panel. Let's continue. Chris Colicchio. Chris is our close colleague from HIA-LI. He has over 20 years of experience in IT industry. He worked with various companies and in various industries, providing services to keep their organizations running smoothly and securely. In addition to being the CEO and founder of TechWorks Consulting in Ronkonkoma, New York, Chris is also a co-chair of the HIA-LI Technology for Business Committee and a HIPAA certified security professional. We work very close with Chris in the HIA-LI community, and we always appreciate his insights as we always do. Chris, welcome to the panel. Let me introduce Frank Langro. He is currently leads a multinational team, is the director of product market management for the pneumatic automation products at Festo. Festo is a manufacturer in the field of automation, pneumatic and electromechanical technology for over years globally and close to 50 years in the United States. Frank represented Festo in multiple areas in support of the advancement of automation and in particular fluid power. He has participated in the development of national and global standards as a member of the National Fluid Power Association. He has represented Festo as an industrial advisory board member for the Center for Compact and Efficient Fluid Power, a partnership between industry and several leading universities to steer the direction of fluid power research. Frank also holds 4 patents in the area of fluid power. So I'll continue. In addition, Frank has been volunteer for more than 12 years with FIRST Long Island, an organization that administers all 4 FIRST programs on Long Island. FIRST uses robotics as the platform to help the students develop an interest in science and technology while developing the skills needed to excel in today's environment. Since 2018, Frank has been a member of the board directors of FIRST Long Island. Frank has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Hofstra University. Frank, welcome to the panel. Thank you for joining. Let me introduce Jay Ryan. He is the founder and CEO of Kilfinan Energy Consultants. The company helps businesses save money and improve their bottom lines by cutting energy costs. They employ many different strategies for their customers, but they always start with the lightning because lead lightning is the simplest and most cost-efficient way for a business to cut operating expenses and improve cash flow. Jay also had a chance to actually join one of our webinars a couple of weeks ago, and we also had a very educational webinar before, so that was also great. I'm glad you joined us, Jay. Welcome to the panel. Let me introduce John Mchugh from Brainstorm Studio. Brainstorm Studio is a marketing agency. The experience has a lot of experience in digital marketing as well as social media management. Also, they have strategically helped companies managing their marketing operations. Based in Melville, helping companies in different industries such as manufacturing, service providers, and other industries. Brainstorm is an expert in marketing strategies and digital marketing. If you remember, I will say 2-3 weeks ago, we also had a educational webinar with John. He talked about how to use digital marketing technologies, social media, and he also shared a couple of use cases with us in manufacturing industry. That's very insightful. John, welcome to the panel. Thank you for joining us. Let me introduce Manny Morales. He is the president of Tool & Technologies company. He has many years of experience in business software, Microsoft products, cloud migration operations. Manny is a loyal member of HIA-LI community. He is also a co-chair of Technology for Business Committee of HIA-LI. Just like Chris, we also work very close with Manny as manufacturing committee, because technology and manufacturing goes hand in hand. That's a fact. So we really work closely in terms of organizing events, webinars, and activities. Manny, welcome to the panel. Let me introduce you Marty Khalif. He's from PSI company. PSI stands for Paperless Solutions Incorporated. So he is a partner and co-founder of the company. He has been offering paperless solutions and document management solutions since 2005. Marty gained his document management experience working for 15 years with 3M company. Macrographic systems was his expertise. Marty's partner Steve gained his understanding of computers and computer operations as an officer in the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, Steve. PSI customers are with government agencies, major retail companies, medical, legal, manufacturing, and in many different industries. So they have, he's bringing all that experience to the panel today. Marty, thank you so much for joining. Welcome to the panel. Okay, great. So this is the introduction. So as you see, we have a great panel together, panel of experts, and everyone has an expertise. So what we do is we have a question today. Our question is predictions, right? How business life will be after COVID-19 and how businesses can get ready for new normal. So what we do is basically each panelist basically has an expertise. They may have different fields of expertise areas. So today we just focus on one. For example, in terms of Alex, we focus on ISO 9001 quality management and risk assessment. For Chris Colucci, we focus on cybersecurity. With Frank, as a manufacturer, we focus on supply chain and changes in business patterns nowadays. With Jay Ryan, we focus on energy trends, energy management. With John Mchugh, we focus on social media communication. With Manny Morales, we focus on cloud technology, and with Marty Khalif, we focus on paperless and remote work environment nowadays, which is also very, very important and popular subject matter for us. We have only one question and one question only, and every single panelist of ours hopefully will answer the question from their expertise point of view. So that is the idea. We have 5 to 7 minutes for each panelist when they answer the question, and I'll be basically managing the time, and when there is 1 minute left, I'll be letting you know. So here is the question, and as I said, there is only one question for each of our panelists. As many states, including New York State, are opening and getting ready to open economies, it looks like nothing will be the same in business, and there will be a new normal in different areas. Based on your expertise area and your observation in the marketplace, what are your predictions about business life after COVID-19? How will it be? How should businesses get ready for new normal? This is our question, basically. So we basically asking the same question to our panelists. Alex, why don't we start with you? Okay.
Okay, I think,
Yes,
yeah,
I can hear you. Great.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect. Floor
Okay,
is yours.
great. All right. Well,
Yes. Thank you.
thank you very much, Kevin, for inviting me to join this panel. I think it's a very interesting topic. It affects all of us, and I'm very happy to contribute what I know in the area of quality management. And well, today, obviously, I'm not going to talk about ISO because I think everybody is aware of what it is. What I want to talk about is really how COVID-19 has impacted the quality management system. And what I'll do is I'll discuss two areas which I think is generic to most organizations. And obviously, there's a lot of other changes that are affected by the pandemic, but I'm going to focus on two that affects almost everybody. And obviously, part of ISO, and what my discussion is about is not just on ISO 9001. It really affects all of the ISO standards. One requirement for ISO is risk assessment, and the organization must always consider what kind of risks are facing the organization. And I'll bet 3 months ago, very few, if no organization, thought about a pandemic and what to do in case it hits us. Obviously, it did. And if most organizations are not prepared, it's not too late to think about it now, what to do as far as how to manage your quality management system. So the two areas I'm going to talk about is, one is the transition to working remotely. So in this particular case, I'm going to assume that's a manufacturing company. Obviously, a lot of the workers have to be located on site because of the equipment that they have to use. And each organization must obviously adopt regulations to meet the requirements in this with COVID-19, namely the physical separation and so on. So obviously, I'm not going to address this because it's specific to the organization, but I'm going to discuss about transitioning to working remotely for those people that do not have to be located on site. And some of the people that could be working remotely are the different levels of management, okay? But one of the 7 ISO principles is that your decisions have to be based on evidence, okay? That and evidence, what is evidence? It's really the data and that you have or are collecting as part of your process. And based on that, rather than just taking, a guess or using intuition as to how to improve your process, which is the core of ISO, all your decisions have to be based on real data and facts. So the data, so if you are now working remotely, the data must be made transparent to you. And it should be available in real time and without having the individual call the office and say, hey, what's going on here, what's happening here, and so on, because that is not an efficient way of satisfying this problem. Now, I want to compare working remotely like to a medical personnel that want to measure or monitor a patient remotely. So to do that, what do you need? Well, first of all, you need some sensors on the patient to measure his vitals. Then you need a communication link, which is typically the internet. And then on the other end, the doctor has to have some sort of interface, software program, and equipment to monitor how the patient is doing. Well, I'm comparing that. Now, you may think, well, what am I talking about? Comparing, having sensors in an organization. But I will address that, you know, a little later, and you know, explain what I really mean by those sensors. Now, working remotely, obviously, if it's, like I said, a manufacturing organization, the management or whoever's in charge of the organization has to continuously determine if the company is meeting targets, if the corrective actions are being handled properly according to procedures, dealing with any supplier issues, and in general, if workers are really following procedures. Okay, and there's obviously a lot more issues that are needed to be addressed, but those are the things that people in charge have to be monitoring continuously. The other part of it is audits. The other thing that is being impacted by COVID-19 is audits, and there are three types of audits. There's an internal audit, there's a certification audit, and a surveillance audit. Now, the internal audit, that could be performed either by internal personnel or having a third party that's doing the audit. Certification audit is once you have applied for ISO certification. The certification audit is done by a certification body or registrar, and once you have been granted the certification, then every year you have to conduct a surveillance audit, which is again done by the registrar. Now, typically, the certification and surveillance audits have been done on site. So you have the auditor come in on site and then spends how many days it takes to perform the audit. And he goes through all the data, documents, and so on. Now, in the
Alex? Hi,
body,
this is Kevin.
Yeah.
You have 1 minute. Thank you.
Okay, so the body that controls the certification bodies, they have issued a document which has been in place for a long time, specifically stating that in cases of acts of God or man-made incidents, specifically they list pandemic, that the audits could be conducted remotely. So the position is that most of the audits, certification audits, can be done remotely. Now, when I said the sensors of the organization, what do I mean by that? It's basically a software program that has access to all of the data, documents of the organization, and really looks into what is going on, if people are following the processes and so on. And there are several tools that are available to do that. And of course, the one that I'm very familiar with, and I think it does a great job, is QDMS, which is developed by Bimser International. So I think that as a takeaway, it is very important that if we get back to normal and do we change our process or not, that kind of a tool will be very valuable in any situation, whether work goes back the way it was done normally or it's still done remotely. So that's basically what I wanted to mention. Thank you very much.
Alex, thank you so much. Thank you for the insights. Yes, actually, there are many things to talk about in terms of quality management. We have 5 to 7 minutes for each panelist. But what we have is, at the end, we also have a Q&A session and discussion, so we can take a little bit more time to talk more about the subject matter based on your expertise. Thank you, Alex. Much appreciated. Okay, great. So, Chris, if you are ready, so what are your predictions as for business life, how the business life will be after COVID-19, or we don't know really after, right? Maybe during COVID-19, we don't know when it's going to be over. We don't really know. So how the business life is changing, how business can be can be ready for this new normal? What would you say?
All right, thanks, Kevin. I really appreciate you having me be a part of this panel. And basically, what I wanted to talk about was, we've been talking for years to our clients and with Kevin and with manufacturers about the stages of digital transformation and where they are in those stages. And what kind of happened to all of our clients very quickly is that they jumped into to a digital transformation that they either didn't want or didn't expect to happen. And we see that as a good thing and a good trend that we're starting to talk to our businesses about how they can take advantage of it. Now they're really open to utilizing these technologies. So that's been a really good trend for a lot of our clients that are willing to be a little more diverse and willing to kind of embrace what the reality is. So that's a good thing. But we also see coming along with that is that some of our clients jumped into it and not really are prepared to swim. So and that's okay, because you got to do what you need to do to keep your businesses functioning. But from a security standpoint and from a cybersecurity standpoint, and then from compliances, especially in the manufacturer world, we've taken some shortcuts. So we're trying to really take a look and help businesses that have embraced this technology but weren't really prepared for it, to take a look at what it means. Because if you're, especially in the manufacturing world, especially if you're into the aerospace and defense industry and that kind of stuff, one of the things that we know is that there are people out there that are still trying to attack your systems and still trying to take advantage of your users and your systems if they're not being taken care of. So that being said, this is the same. I'll repeat a little bit of what Alex said, is that what we're doing for our clients is setting baseline audits for them to take a look and say, where do you stand with your technology? And it's not that we have to change. We just need to know what we did, where we stand, and how we can move you guys forward to do that. Because the one thing we know, even during this time, the Department of Defense said, we're not stopping CMMC. If you know what CMMC is, that's the new Department of Defense regulations for anybody who's doing manufacturing in the aerospace defense industry. But also, almost across the board, a lot of the big players that we're dealing with are expecting the smaller businesses to hold to higher standards with their technology and their security moving forward. So no matter what happens in this pandemic, there is an expectation that security is going to get better, and that they're going to require all of our businesses to have new levels of security, both in the old technology that they used and in these new technologies. So we definitely want to, make sure that you're prepared to that. But that being said, the clients that have embraced this and are really moving forward, I think that we have a real bright future, because we are really seeing that there is a way to be more productive through these technologies like SharePoint, like Teams, like Zoom, and all that stuff, and cut back on some of the paper. And I say the clients that have really embraced that, we had about, I'd say for our side, we had about 50% of our clients that were fully ready to go, and we moved them over to cloud services, and we moved them over to remote desktops and things like that. And with a flip of the switch, they were up and running. The other clients had to deal with some disruption during that time. But I think we should really embrace this change from that standpoint. I think that's the positive thing that we're going to stand. So secondarily, what we're trying to do and what we expect that you guys should be doing is during these downtimes, getting your users, yourself, trained on how to use these technologies, what these technologies and how they can benefit your organization. Maybe have a conversation with someone like ourselves. We're offering up free time to everybody who gives us a call to say, what can we do with this technology? What's next? That kind of stuff. So, but we've also set up formalized training, and we're talking to all of our clients about getting formalized training on all these new products, on cybersecurity, on all of those kind of things, because I would still say that it's now time to start looking at your cybersecurity plans as something real, and understand that your users are your first line of defense. It's the like, I think it's about 80% of all cyber attacks come through somebody inside your organization. So you really got to get them up and trained, and really talk to them about what that means for the cybersecurity piece. So we've been doing that for our clients. We've been talking to them about moving forward, and we've also been talking to them about, it's a practice that we do here, which is we try to actually we try to put ourselves out of business. We sit down with our group, with our our leaders in our organization, and even with some of our team, and we say, what's going to happen now? What are the changes that are happening that could put us out of business? And it could be a competitor, it could be a new technology, it could be any of those things. And when we talk about those kind of putting yourself out of business, we say to ourselves, okay, so we've kind of identified some areas that are going to put us out of business, and if that puts us out of business, what can we do about that? Do we hunker down and not change anything and we just fight against it? Do we change ourselves and make that product that could put us out of business ourselves? Do we advertise against those changes? So that being said, that's a lot of what we've been talking to our clients during this time. Most of them are really looking for, now that I can do this, what are we going to do to get our people trained up using this new technology? Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt. This is Kevin. You have 1 minute. Thank you.
I lost you, Kev.
You have 1 minute.
I guess I awesome. All right, so we're looking at this as a positive for all of our clients, although, like I said, there are bad actors out there that are looking to take advantage of this situation. So we're trying to talk to them about making sure that, what they did, if they weren't secure, if they're just giving themselves, their clients, and letting them work on their computers that their kids might be on, and other stuff out in the field, and opening up VPNs and all that kind of stuff. We're kind of trying to rein that back in so that they're really secure again. We're focusing on getting them trained on these new products in cyber. We're really looking to the future and trying to get all of our clients to say, there's areas where we're all going to be able to probably shift a little bit, make some money, and move forward. And then, like I said, we really focus on trying to say, how can we be ahead of that? What's going to be, none of us can predict the pandemic, but there's some things we can predict. Let's get ahead of those things and really try to, move our businesses forward.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. So based on what Alex mentioned, also what you mentioned, it's also touching to, I believe, risk management, risk assessment in a way. Like thinking about what may happen.
Yeah, I mean,
and yeah, you're right. So that's very important for companies.
Baseline assessments. That's where you get to know what you don't know. Those baseline assessments are when you do them correctly, it really adds a whole level. It really gets you to the place where you say, oh, I didn't even know that, and it opens up a lot of eyes.
Very important. And I think as for business life after COVID-19 or during COVID-19, I must say the risk assessment. I mean, sitting down, just like you mentioned, with the team of your colleagues, basically thinking of what may happen, and if that happens, what's going to be the contingency plan, right? Like a plan B on the site.
Yeah, and
so that's very exciting.
In our case too, just as a side note, in our case too, we even brought in somebody else outside of our field to take a look at what we're doing and tell us what might put us out of business as an extra piece to our panel, to say, you guys keep talking, because you're internal in your own heads and you keep talking about the same thing, and to have somebody you trust from the outside telling you that you're kind of, sometimes we're stupid or that's a good idea, that was so powerful.
Yes, you're right. Just like Alex mentioned, having in a way that auditor, for surveillance purposes,
yep.
Getting a second opinion in a way, what is going on and what may happen. Basically, so that is very powerful. And another thing that actually you mentioned is, like until now, maybe many companies were running on paper, literally on paper. We see it all the time.
Yep.
If you are on paper right now, you are pretty much stuck. Basically, you cannot go to work. If you go to work, you need to pick up whatever paper that you have. You need to carry it home or something. I don't know. Unless you are able to work remotely right now, the business is pretty much stuck. I mean, that's tough. So right now, I think
what we found with a lot of those companies that were on paper is that they quickly moved their stuff around, but they're disorganized. They have stuff on their own desktops and everybody else's desktops, and they're all sharing through emails. And so they've been able to shift to the digital a little bit, but not very effectively, not very efficiently, and also not very securely, because they don't know where everything kind of went. So they've moved over some of their stuff digitally, but it's all over the place.
In rush, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, yes, you're right. Maybe, maybe this can open up, new doors for companies. I mean, it looks like working remotely is going to be here for a while. That's how it looks, because we don't know how it's going to end. So that, like many companies can, get used to it, get training. I think it's a good time for getting training right now in that sense. I agree with your points. Very, very helpful. Very helpful. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. I
Thanks.
appreciate it. So I'd like to invite Frank Langro from Festo. Frank, so from the manufacturer's point of view, so you have expertise in automation, the technology, and manufacturing. So from your point of view and from your expertise area, how the business life will be after COVID-19, and how businesses can get ready, and how you are seeing the business life right now. What are your takes?
Sure. Well, thanks, Kevin, for having me on this panel. Already some great insights from Alex and Chris. But, it's interesting. I mean, it's a tough question because things are just changing dramatically. And if you take a step back and you look at when this first broke, everybody was looking at this as a supply chain issue, right? They were wondering about how are they, parts from China, are their suppliers impacted? And looking at it from that perspective, and how quickly it escalated from a supply chain issue to a people issue, and to the point where I think you see, unfortunately today, companies' actual survival, in question because of the impact on their people and their businesses. So it's changing rapidly. I think the one thing that we can say is that business will be different. There's no question about it. It will change. And, so what the points I'd like to hit on is, I think there are three key points that I see from our business area in manufacturing, and that's the impact on supply chains and how they get reconfigured post-COVID-19. Also, what will manufacturers do? Because how are they going to keep their workers safe and productive in the event of another situation like this? So they have to be prepared, better prepared than we all were for this first go around. And then also, how do we interact with the other companies that we deal with? How do we interact with our customers? Those are three big points that I think come out of this. As far as the first one, supply chain, I think, whenever there's a disruption, it also creates opportunities. And for companies that are prepared, they can find new niches and new places to play in the business world. So already, even prior to COVID-19, you saw some small changes going on. You saw some improvements in the manufacturing world in the US from reshoring. That was driven mostly by some increased costs and also some risk in doing business overseas and in foreign places. Costs to bring product over, questions about quality control and topics like that. And with the rise in automation, companies here in the US were able to be more competitive and enable them to bring some of the manufacturing back to these shores. I think, Alex pointed out about risk, and supply chain is clearly a risk area, and companies will have to evaluate that very closely, whether it creates dual supply chains or looks to strategically relocate supply chains. That's certainly going to be one outcome. What will manufacturers do in plant to keep operations running? I think this is another very important topic. And we're seeing, again, from like the food producers, the issues that they're facing with just in the way they're set up and how they produce those products. Like in the meat plants, for instance, there's a high level of manual labor where people are placed very close together, and that's obviously not a good situation when you have a virus being passed around from people to people very easily. So I think this also opened up an opportunity to look at automation, where you can spread people further apart. You can take some repetitive tasks that are somewhat mundane and put some automation behind it to basically be able to keep the plants running on in a situation like that and keep the employees safe, which is really most important. The other thing, I mean, actually, I read in the newspaper today. I think it was Cambio invested just recently $800,000 in automation and robotics because of the demand for them to produce antibody testing. So, there's companies that will be able to take advantage because of the need for more products and look to enhance their productivity through automation. And the other part that I did want to hit on is how do we interact with our customers? And, what we see here is that Festo is an essential business in that we're supplying parts into food producers, into laboratory diagnostic companies. And what we're seeing is that, we're able to continue to do business, but remotely. So there is the digitalization aspect that was mentioned a little bit earlier. More and more people, this was a trend anyway, in terms of digital journey by customers and how to select products and how to interact. In that, a lot of times people are already using a digital journey to start to narrow down their suppliers of choice and things like that. And it's only going to happen more and more. And so you have to be prepared to have information available, the tools that the customers need to select your products and design, their products, whether it be transferring CAD files or more elaborate analysis tools, on a machine level, making safety analysis and other things like that. So companies have to be prepared to be able to supply that information, and work remotely, have the tools to stay engaged, but yet not be face to face. So I think we're going to see that a lot more because companies are still going to be protective of their employees and being cautious about who they let into their facilities and their buildings and so on. So we have to be prepared to be able to deal with that as well.
Frank, thank you very much.
Yep.
That is a great insights. Absolutely. One of the things actually you mentioned is some companies they work remotely, and another thing you mentioned is actually that was a trend anyways, right? Like working from home, it's not something new, but right now it is a necessity right now for us to actually run our businesses. That is another thing. The supply chain is also very interesting. I mean, you're right. I mean, we read different news on newspapers every day in terms of supply chain, like because the problem is, I think you also mentioned it, globally it's an issue. So because of the nature of our business, we also deal internationally with other regions as well. So all of a sudden, pretty much at the same time, everyone has the same issue. So you turn to the left, they have the same issue. You turn to the right, they have the same issue. So it is very difficult to manage the supply chain at the same time.
Yeah, because you're dealing with your own issues at the same time. You have to be cognizant of your customers, of your suppliers, because they have their issues too, right? And so we are in the same boat in this, and so we have to work together to make sure that we're able to keep things moving forward, and each company at the end of the day, I would hope this is the case. I know it is in my company that the employees are really first and foremost. We really want to keep our employees safe and healthy, and when you do that, they're productive.
Definitely, Frank. Much appreciated. Thank you so much for the insights. Please stay with us. They also have the Q&A session and further discussions coming up soon. Thank you, Frank. I'd like to invite Jay Ryan. to the conversation. Jay, so your expertise is actually energy management and energy cost reduction. So from your expertise point of view, so how the life will be for businesses during COVID-19, after COVID-19, and how they can actually prepare themselves from the energy management point of view. Please share your insights with us.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Thanks for having me on the panel. Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening. It's amazing how much has changed in the last 6 to 8 weeks. We're all being forced to think differently, not just about our business strategies and tactics, but about who can work, what will be allowed under changed conditions, where our people will be able to work, when we'll be able to reopen our businesses, and how we can prepare so that we can enter the next normal in the best position to thrive. I think some people have addressed some of the other questions. I'm going to address the last question, how, at least, as it pertains to energy trends. And so on the micro level, before COVID, energy efficiency was a useful tool for enlightened businesses. An upgrade to LED lighting, for instance, would save 40 to 70% on electricity, eliminate the need to purchase replacement bulbs and ballasts, and provide healthier and brighter light for a more productive workforce. With significant rebates and tax incentives, LED lighting could pay for itself in 6 to 24 months. Community solar installed on your roof could provide an additional stream of revenue, and in some instances could provide you with a new roof. Demand response programs could provide your visitors with a large cash payment from your utility in return for being prepared to lower your energy use for a few peak use afternoons in the summer. And in turn, all of our other energy strategies could save our customers money on one of their largest operating expenses, energy. What will change post-COVID on the micro level is that the increased need to focus on cost reduction and cash flow maximization strategies. When businesses are running smoothly and revenues are humming along, energy efficiency projects can be put off. We'll get to that, but I don't have time for it now. But after months of reduced or no income and struggling with liquidity issues, many businesses will absolutely need to find areas where they can lower operating expenses and free up cash flow. And energy efficiency is one pain-free method to do that. On the macro level, I think we have to watch for how the new total focus on health will impact energy and environmental policy at the government level. Before COVID, public policy was leaning more and more towards green priorities, with less interest in how those policies might negatively impact business. For instance, regulations requiring an increased percentage of energy produced by or from sustainable sources were increasing energy costs for all, and that was going to increase. And more specific regulations put a significant financial burden on some others. For instance, building owners in New York City. As we've seen with how we're now bagging our groceries at the store, however, right now health and safety is trumping green policy. And we'll have to watch how this plays out because it's going to impact the cost of energy going forward. Because it doesn't step on the toes of any of my fellow panelists, I'm going to veer off the pure energy topic for 1 minute. This is absolutely pertinent to today's topic of life after COVID-19, however. As suggested by Kevin's introduction, my company is constantly involved in finding the best and most cost-effective LED lighting technology. Our expertise in lighting also extends to ultraviolet light. Unfortunately, due to the coronavirus, all businesses, including manufacturers, are going to have to spend more time and money ensuring that their facilities stay clean and sanitary. This is not just to protect the health of our employees and customers, but to provide them with the peace of mind that your premises are safe. As with our energy spend, we should be prepared to do this in the most effective and cost-efficient manner. UV light is a great disinfectant and has been around since the 1870s. There are different types of UV light with different properties determined by where they are in the electromagnetic spectrum. Most of UV light that's been used in the US in the past has been UVA or UVB. It's great for killing bacteria, but it doesn't kill viruses. UVC light kills viruses with 99.99% efficiency, but if not used properly, it can damage human eyes and skin. Combining two different types of UVC light, you can completely disinfect your facilities. This no-touch technology uses no chemicals or toxins and leaves no residue or odor. You don't have to move any machinery, cover your electronics, or put away desktop papers. If you're interested, please call or text me and I can further explain the technology and the process. And that's basically it for me today.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very interesting technology that you just mentioned. So like in terms of having the safe work environment, having those lights in place in a manufacturing organization or distribution, for example, that's a game changer. That's a great.
Yeah, it really is. There's an article in the paper today. Some scientists from Columbia are doing a test with it to clean all the subway trains at night. So it's a real technology, and I'd love to talk to people about it.
That's amazing. Thank you, Jay. Thank you for the insights. Much appreciated, as always. So let's talk about communications right now. Let's talk about social media. So as businesses, yes, we are fighting against this situation. We try to adapt. We try to see what is going on, and we try to protect our employees. We try to also communicate them. We try to communicate our customers. But that's not easy, of course. So from the communications point of view, I'd like to invite John Mchugh to the stage, our virtual stage, I must say. So John, please tell us what do you think in terms of, from your expertise point of view, marketing, digital marketing and social media, how the life will be, business life will be during and after COVID-19, and how businesses can get ready for these difficult times.
Sure. Thank you, Kevin, and thanks for all the attendees. So yeah, as the rest of the speakers mentioned, things are very different than they were 6 weeks ago. So I'd like to speak about a few predictions I have, and also as it relates to sales and marketing, and basically what you can do now to prepare for business life after COVID. So you're definitely going to need a new playbook for sales and marketing after COVID-19. So much has changed so quickly, and we can't use the types of messaging we've used in the past. It would just be insensitive to what's going on right now. So I think there's going to be a lot less branding and awareness type of marketing, and much more focus on marketing that generates revenue. A lot of companies are going to have to recover, right, and make up for sales that were lost. So yeah, it's going to be a lot more focus, and a lot of it is going to shift to digital marketing and sales, because it's the most one of the most measurable types of marketing. I think we're going to see a good amount of innovations. As some of the past speakers mentioned, also we're already seeing how we all pivoted quickly to working from home, with video conferencing and shifting to cloud services. The same is going to happen with marketing, and we've already seen an uptick in a lot of these types of services, helping our clients shift from manual processes. Spreadsheets on desktops to track sales is not going to work anymore. Shifting to CRMs and automated sales sequences and dashboards to monitor our sales activities, and then automate responses to clients. If they fill out a form on a website, they should be in a nurture sequence and receive related emails over a period of time. And a much greaher focus on analytics and automation, as Frank spoke to. So another thing is that, obviously now we can't be in person, right? And manufacturers traditionally rely on a few big trade shows or industry events a year to generate their leads, right? Those sales leads that they're going to, nurture into sales all year. It may be a year from now before, full big scale industry events are going to happen. So, so what are you going to do with that budget to reallocate it to make up for those leads for your sales team? So here's my recommendations on kind of how to use some of this downtime and things you can do to prepare for life after COVID. So what we're doing for a lot of clients that were in that situation and lost trade shows and very important events, is we're shifting to digital campaigns. Google ads are great lead generation campaigns as long as they're run correctly, and you monitor them. LinkedIn is, obviously we're all on LinkedIn, great B2B platform, and also has a lot of advertising and lead generation types of ads and ad platform to use there, especially if you use technical content like engineers would like, white papers, technical documents, things like that. Great on LinkedIn. Improve your website, right? I'm sure there's some people on your staff that may have some downtime right now. So why not have them look over your website? Is your messaging accurate? Are your product offerings updated? When it comes to selling products, can you move some of those sales processes online? We actually had a client that used to produce a very large-scale in-person event every year. They're a distributor, so they would bring various manufacturers there and have all sorts of incentives. If you buy a certain amount with a certain manufacturer, you get a discount. If your order total is a certain size, you would also get a discount. About 3 to 4 months ago, it was actually pre-COVID, which was almost like they had a crystal ball. They asked us to bring this event online. They didn't want to invest in the space anymore, in the catering and all these expenses. So how can we reproduce that in-person event online? And we did this, and it went on in February during all this craziness, when all this just started, all the fear. And this online sales event actually got close to the amount of sales than their in-person event did, and a fraction of the investment. So buyers went online to an online portal and purchased through an e-commerce shopping cart. It was private, invitation only. All the incentives worked, and it was really, it was such a shift for this very traditional company to do such a digital transformation so quickly, and it was a great success. So think about that. Is there any things that you do in person that you could shift to online?
Hello, John.
Many of us.
You have 1 minute. Thank you.
Okay, great. Many of us want to increase our search engine rankings, right? Technical buyers, engineers, they search for very technical phrases, long tail phrases in Google search, right? That requires us doing SEO, but SEO and content, all that, it takes a while. It could take 6 to 12 months to get some results. So why not start that now? All right, start preparing for what's to come after this. Social media, improve your thought leadership, post articles and educational content on LinkedIn. We all have great networks, so definitely interact, and maybe even host a webinar series. Kevin and the group got to this really early and really, took our in-person breakfast meetings and turned this into great virtual sessions. And I'm sure in your industry, you see a lot of this going on. Attendance is way up. Website traffic is way up. So think about how can we maximize this engagement. That really concludes what I want to speak about. And all I can say is from the past, I mean, I've been doing this 18 years. We work with a bunch of manufacturers and technology companies. Is the companies that shift to digital and invest in sales and marketing during downtimes and tricky times like this, they come out stronger and they come out ahead of their competition, because other companies are, unfortunately worrying about paying the bills and things like that. The ones that have a little to invest, or like we said, reallocate some trade show budgets, they're going to come out stronger because they're going to capture that market share for when this all turns around.
Thank you, John.
All right, and that's all I have, so thank you.
Thank you. That's great. That's
Sure.
a great insight. Absolutely. So the focusing on our digital marketing efforts as well as our CRM, how we are handling our customer relationships, sales operations in a digital environment. Also, you mentioned webinars nowadays is a great way to communicate with our target market. I agree with your findings, by the way. That's what we are seeing with the webinars. In addition to other than HIA-LI related webinars, we also do webinars for our own business, for example, regularly. And you're right, that definitely the attendees, we get more attendees than before, more interest than before. They ask more questions than before, so they are more responsive in general. The market that we have than before because of the times right now we are in. Everyone using online tools more than before. It's easier to access them digitally. I was talking to one of our solution partners. They're actually nationwide. They're almost in every single state. So they used to do a lot of travels, a lot of business trips. They used to visit their prospects, customers. Anytime there was an opportunity, they hop on the plane, they go. That's how they used to be. But right now, that doesn't work that way. So right now they are thinking like how they're going to engage the customer. So we were chatting like the online is the only way. How are you going to talk to people? You cannot go to their office. They cannot come to you. You need to keep distance. You cannot even travel easily. So that is the only way. That's how it looks. The online tools that's available right now. Thank God that's available. We are lucky in that sense. We are fortunate. Now you also have a point like using them in a right way, right? So then putting them to work in a way that we strategize and then they work for us with a certain plan is, I think that's the way to go nowadays.
Correct. Yeah, now it's a great time to just build your systems and your automations. So yeah, you can just be stronger later and have all those processes in place and stop all that manual work for sure.
Appreciate it. So we move on with the next subject. Also, if you can do me a favor and if you can mute yourself, that'd be great. So we can have a better webinar experience. I hear some background noise. Please mute your microphones. Thank you very much. All right. So let's talk about technology a little bit more in terms of marketing. So we know you have a lot of experience in technology for business, cloud. We had a webinar with you before for HIA-LI community. It was a very educational webinar, and you also came up with a survivor's guide for businesses during COVID-19. That was amazing. And so from your point of view, from a cloud point of view, from technology point of view, how the business life will be during and after COVID-19, and more importantly, how businesses can get ready for the new normal.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and Ron, and the HIA, and I'm honored to be among all the talent that's on this panel. I'm amazed, and I've learned so much just in this sitting. Batting this far down the batting order, it's kind of like just don't ground into a double play. There's been a lot said, a lot of wisdoms sort of been passed along, so I'm going to do my best to maybe add to that. Kevin, as your question about life in COVID-19 world and the pandemic world, and once this is over, there'll be something like it later on. How do we prepare for it? So the topic of cloud, some of it is obvious, and some of it maybe not so much. The thing that I hope everybody sort of takes out of this is that what cloud brings really to the table is tremendous capability and capacity and flexibility and a TCO benefit that was previously only in the realm of bigger clients and bigger organizations. They brought it in. Cloud has brought it into the realm of the small and medium-sized businesses. The security and compliance that it can enable, and you've got to buy into the tools and use the best practices that are there in front of you, but it allows you to adopt that sort of framework and do your execution of business in ways that you only used to only the big boys used to be able to do. Frank had mentioned the flexibility in the supply chain, throughout that. I think the new normal is going to require businesses to be more efficient, more creative, a little bit more diverse. Finding second sources and protecting themselves from these types of shortages. And what's come out of the COVID world is we've had to start thinking in terms of that. We've had to start, putting those sorts of things in motion and look to be more creative. John referenced that don't shortchange your sales force in this, that you've got these sales and marketing budgets that you might have used. Well, investment in something like a CRM system, Dynamics or Salesforce or something like that are in the cloud. That's an excellent thing. Something telling is the adoption of collaborative tools and things. Microsoft Teams now has like 75 million users on it. That's just it's an absurd amount of people that are daily users of Microsoft Teams. When it was literally a fraction of that, 6 months ago. And people are finding that those sorts of tools are essential to do business in this new world. So cloud enables a bunch of things. Remote access is only one of them. What we about a year ago, maybe a little bit more, we rely on cloud a lot. In our development practice, we will deploy out to the Azure cloud. Not to do a commercial for Microsoft necessarily, but we will deploy a lot of that into the cloud because of its resilience and just some built-in security and redundancy that just exists there. And we would be able to put forward the benefits on availability and those sorts of things. And one thing that was always stated was pandemic. And I'm like Alex, that I never thought I'd actually see something like that. But sure enough, here we are. So those clients that did even migrate their entire server infrastructure into the cloud made a very easy transition into working remotely, because it's literally like that URL that you go to, you're going to go to the same URL, but you're going to go to it from your PC at home. Chris brings up a good point that your kid's PC may not be fully outfitted to handle that sort of remote work, cloud or otherwise. There are, and security aspects being the biggest part of it, but that vehicle is certainly something that we all want to look at. That some clients went up in an orderly fashion, let's call it, and some of them went up when Cuomo said, you're going to have to start cutting your workforce. Oh, wait, I mean everybody if you're not one of these essential services. So it was a lot of people got thrown into the pool, and it might have been colder than they thought, but they figured out they were able to carry on with it, maybe not in the best sense, and some of that we're looking back to to do and to fine tune. I think the organizations that are able to rapidly deploy and adjust to supporting remote workers, they're going to have a definite advantage in the future for a couple of reasons. When things like this come up, it's also a drawing card for new talent. A younger talent may want the option to be able to work off site to get that family, home, and work balance a little bit better, and it gives the option of being able to do that. I think Frank might have stated that if you have to touch product, it makes it a little bit more difficult to do that. But there's a lot of staff that don't need to touch product and can easily work outside. There's a lot of benefits to virtualizing your desktops. New term coming out like DAS, desktop as a service. It's a huge win because of remote access, but also that because the important stuff is happening out there, the real thing, the processing that you need horsepower for, it's not on a desktop anymore. So use a Chromebook, use a tablet, use something like that to stay connected and to do your work. So I think it provides those sorts of options to organizations. to be able to keep going with this lower cost. Yes, sir.
Hi, Manny. This is Kevin. You have 1 minute. Thank
Hello?
you.
Okay, thanks. Definitely the use of collaborative tools are something that I think they got discovered in the last 30 or 45 days, but you're going to see more of. People have a lot of gold locked up in their data. So I think the use of some cloud-based business intelligence tools, big data type tools, and other things, Power BI and other types of functionality, natural language queries. You're going to see those as being utilized more by different organizations. And the use of IoT for this, the supply chain certainly can make great use of IoT. You're hearing 0G networks, which are low power facilitators for monitoring that sort of thing, for control, for using, for feeding predictive analytics and other benefits. Artificial intelligence is commoditized by the cloud that many different size companies can make use of. I think you're going to see the use of AI be a little bit more evolutionary than revolutionary as people start using it more and discovering some of the benefits. But cloud's one of the most agile platforms available, if not the most agile. You really pay for what you use, you enlist what you use, you shut it down when you're not. So in these times which maybe demand you to do things that you never did, offer services and goods that you didn't used to, it gives you that flexibility and that agility to be able to do that, I think, a little bit better than back in the day. You're going to need to do things you've never done in the new world, and the flexibility of cloud should help you to adopt that.
Thank you, Manny. Much appreciated. Yes, I think it is a time for cloud. That's how it looks. I mean, think about it. So let's say you have a server at your plant, at your warehouse, and you need to maintain it. You need to take care of it. You gotta take care of it sometimes physically, right? You gotta go check it, make sure everything is okay, the coolings are working. So nowadays, I don't think it's a great time to do it.
You need to maintain refrigeration or something.
Yeah, the system room, right? So yes.
I mean, there's a lot of benefit.
Yeah, so definitely the cloud time for cloud is, I think, inevitable right now, especially. It's not a choice. It looks like a necessity right now. That's how it looks. Amazing.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Exactly. And we've been, leveraging cloud basically as another brick in your infrastructure. The same way you may put up a server and a workstation, that cloud is another thing that you can either put in fully, put in as a hybrid. You may be constrained by, by your, by ISO or something like that, by a regulatory, oversee. But it's definitely should be in everybody's toolbox and should be in the conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Especially those in healthcare, complying with CFR Part 11 and FDA requirements. You're gonna have to back it up anyways. In a place that's off-site. That's a regulatory requirement basically. Now on top of it, now because of COVID-19, now this is a need. You don't want to manage your system room, go in there. It is tough. It's risky, really.
Sure.
So that's great. I mean, Manny, thank you so much for the insights. Much appreciated. Thank you as always.
Thanks for the opportunity, Ken.
Anytime. Please stay with us. We have a Q&A session coming up. So let's talk about being paperless. When we are talking about remote work, naturally, we can also be digital at the same time. Imagine all your documentation, all your paperwork, all your sales tools, all your manufacturing the functionalities can be managed or at least or observed remotely, monitor remotely, for example, with the smart sensors, just like Manny mentioned, or just like John mentioned, using CRM tools that you don't have to be in the office and you can actually access the data wherever you are. That's amazing. So let's talk about being paperless. And I'm a fan of being paperless, even though I used to work in the paper industry. That's very interesting. So being in technology, seeing the advantages, that's inevitable, right? So I'd like to invite Marty Khalif from Paperless Solutions. Marty, we know you have a lot of experience helping companies being paperless. And also nowadays, there is an opportunity, I must say, for companies to work remotely and be paperless, really. So from your expertise point of view, what is your take? What are your predictions? How the business life will be and are right now, actually, due to COVID-19? And how, more importantly, what type of suggestions, recommendations you will share with businesses for them to get ready for this new normal?
Well, thank you, Kevin, and thank you for inviting me onto this prestigious panel. I'm honored to be here, and everybody has given some very informative information. Being, I guess, the cleanup hitter, I'll try not to duplicate what everybody else has said, but I'm going to try and answer 3 different points for this meeting. One was how business life was, or how we found business life before COVID-19. How the business life we think will be after COVID-19, and some practical ideas and suggestions. So first off, I want to start by mentioning that PDF, which has been around since 1993, which stands for Portable Document Format, even though it's been around for a long time, it's supposed to replace paper. Only 1 in 3 companies actually have any type of initiative to actually try and create a paperless environment. Now, we understand that paper will not actually totally disappear. There'll always be paper in our life, but we can minimize the use of paper, and by minimalizing, tough word for me to say, the use of paper will make companies more efficient. Just to give you some interesting facts, a typical office worker travels or takes about 61 trips a week to either the fax machine, a printer, or a copier, and filing costs about, on the average, about $20 a document. And in terms of space, a 4-drawer file cabinet, which holds about, let's say, somewhere between 10 and 15,000 pages, or 10 to 12,000 pages, costs about $1,500 a year to maintain. And when you open up a drawer, it takes up about 9 square feet of floor space, so it takes up a lot of space. And if you have a proper document management system, you'll eliminate all these storage space. You'll probably never ever lose a document, because document management solutions or document management software will allow you to search a document by any term, a number, a word, a phrase. So as long as you have some information, you will find that document. And because of that, most employees lose about 4 weeks just to search for misfiled or mislabeled or untracked documents. And these statistics go on and on and on. In terms of paper, the average business is growing by 22% a year just on paper usage a year. So it's using up a lot of paper. In fact, paper is the 3rd largest industrial polluter to air, water, and land in both Canada and the United States. And it would actually, if all the paper was thrown away in a year, you could make a 12-foot wall from New York to California. So there's a lot of reasons why you should use paper or should not use paper and go to a paperless type of solution. We had a client, a mortgage company. He had 3 off-site storage locations to store his documents. And it was costing him somewhere between $500 to $1,000 each storage unit. So it was costing him somewhere around maybe $1,500 to $1,500, $2,000 a year just to store documents off-site. And whenever he needed a document, he would take 2 people out of the office half a day just to go to the storage sites to find the information. So there was a lot of cost just to store the paper and retrieve that paper. So once he digitized those records and took them off-site, he saved all that money and time. Then he found out that he had some active files that he used a room just for storage. He scanned all those documents, and by scanning all those documents, he was able to retrieve that space, and he was paying a lot of money per square foot. and he was able to bring in 3 salespeople without having to rent additional office space. Then on top of that, his postage dropped because he was now emailing and faxing directly from the computer because all the information was in the computer. So he found a lot of advantages in terms of saving time, saving money, saving space, providing security to the documents. So why is only 1 in 3 companies currently only scanning their records? We're finding out that a lot of people just don't want to give up their paper. When we were younger, what would happen, our parents gave us crayons, we'd scribble on the walls, we scribbled on the floor, and we scribbled on paper. Then we went to school and we did our homework on paper, we handed in paper, and now we're being told to take paper away, and people have fear of that. I mean, you still like to go home and read the newspaper and hold the paper in your hand. So there's just that fear of losing that paper. But the advantages are just tremendous. And we found out that a lot of the reason there's objection is because management hasn't taken the stand that you must start going paperless. And that's the issue, is that management has to declare that that is the initiative of the company to go paperless. Once that happens, a lot of the employees may first not feel comfortable with the idea, but within 6 months of going paperless, if you told that employee you're going to take the paper away from them, they'll probably bite your hand off because they like the idea of having all the information available all the time. It makes their life easier, makes everybody's life easier. Your customers like it because they get a response back quicker. We had believe it or not, a insurance agent. He was a one-man operation. He had 11 file cabinets, and every time he had a phone call, he'd have to take the person's name and number and either put them on hold or have to call them back. And then he'd have to go through the file cabinet and hope it wasn't misfiled or out of file. It was always on the bottom file drawer. He always found it was just tough handling his paper. So he scanned all his records. And by scanning the records, now when somebody calls, all he does is key information. Up comes the file, answers on that person's phone call, and he's done with the problem. No longer is it a problem. No longer does he have to respond to it. So it's just an easier way to work for whether you're a small company or a large company. In terms of a large company, distribution of information, you're always with the most up-to-date information that's out there because you are controlling what people have. It's not that people have files that they copy, they store in their drawers, and they always have the older information because they never update it. So in terms of life before COVID, it was harder for people to make the transition. The business life we're finding, we believe that after this COVID, is that companies are now regretting that they haven't actually scanned their important information, because if the information was scanned, they could work remotely through the cloud, be able to get all the information that they need and work very smoothly with their business. But I think what's going to happen is that companies are going to say, wait a second, we can effectively work remotely. We could probably save on office space. We could save on overhead expenses, and people will enjoy working from their homes. Generally, a person that works from their home, if they leave their house at 8 o'clock to get to the office, well, if they're still getting up at 8 o'clock, they're actually going to end up being putting in more work hours because they're home and they find it just easier to start earlier. Maybe they'll stay a little later and still have the basic family life because they'll work till 6 o'clock and still be able to do whatever they have to do.
Hello, Marty.
So we feel
you have
yes?
you have 1 minute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. So I think after COVID that people are going to look at working more remotely, having more people working remotely, assuming that employees will like it. Some people won't like to work remotely. They miss the comradeship of having people in the office. In terms of some practical ideas, I think if a company wants to go paperless, it has to head from start with the head of the company. It has to be a system. The concept has to come from the head, and they have to implement a plan on how they're going to go about doing it. Kevin, that's about it for me.
Marty, thank you so much. Much appreciated. Yes, nowadays being paperless is a great advantage, actually, especially being able to work remotely. That's a great advantage. So great insights, Marty. Thank you so much. We never thought about how much time we will spend on finding documents in the archive. These are great insights for us to learn. And just like Alex mentioned earlier, that's for business community to make decisions on evidence, evidence-based decision making. I think these are great insights for us to learn. Okay, great. So much appreciated for the great insights. I mean, that was great. We all learned a lot. That's for sure. So this is the Q&A session. I know we may all have questions for each other and for our panelists. That's for sure. So I'd like to open the floor for asking the question. So there are two ways. Either you can type it in the chat box, or you can also share it by just speaking, unmuting your microphone. Also, Ron, before we jump to the Q&A session, would you like to add anything, share anything?
No, I think it was very insightful. Thank you to all the panelists for contributing their special areas of expertise to the group. We appreciate the expertise shared to help all manufacturers in Long Island thrive in the high-cost New York area.
Thank you, Ron. So one of the questions that I got is actually for Frank. So from manufacturing point of view, so what we understand is, especially for food industry nowadays, so there is a shortage in meat, right? Because of the way that these manufacturers are working. So do you think there is going to be more automation will be needed or will be happening in food processing industry, you will think, Frank?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in any number of industries where you take manufacturers are going to have to rethink their shop floor, really, how to provide a safe environment. And so any number of industries where you have large groups of people working side by side, how can they space that out? Can they use automation to assist the employees? Those are the type of things that they're going to have to consider. And so my belief is absolutely the answer is yes. You will see more automation in those areas.
Yes, it's definitely how it looks in this because of the COVID-19. So let me turn to our attendees. Do you have any questions that you like to share with our panel? Okay, so I think there is no question from our attendees. One of the questions that actually I received was about actually cybersecurity. So, Chris, you mentioned about so some companies are actually rushing into digitizing their operations to be able to work remotely. So how they should approach this process from the cybersecurity point of view? Yes, you can scan many different things and you can just save them on a cloud environment. Is there a strategy that they should actually follow or steps they should go one by one, you think?
So sorry about that. Something's loud. The first scenario that we deal with usually would be like setting the policies and that are expected, so that we take a look at what the standards need to be depending on what industry that you're in and what's going on. But certainly there's basics like having antivirus on every machine that's manageable and able, and not just the free version of software that we see people putting on, and using business class firewalls. But at the end of the day, you got to know where you stand and what is required of you. But we do see, especially it's kind of weird, especially in the manufacturing industry, that people are they're still holding on to their old technologies, and a lot of those old technologies, they might be CNC machines and presses and other stuff, and they have Windows 7 machines on them, and then or like I said, they have computers. Oh well, it's nice because they still work, but unfortunately they have security risks in them. So I go back to, and what we've talked about dozens of times, is you got to have an audit. You got to know where you are with this stuff. There's basics that everybody can do, and that's pretty easy. Change your passwords, keep your businesses, don't use other people's computers or your kids' computers or outside, or secure up your VPNs. There's like a lot of basics, but though, to be honest with you, it's if you have this baseline, what we do in our practice is we kind of put it on this sheet, and it's either green, red, or yellow, and then we can go through all of those things and say, hey, this is what you got to work on first. So, a lot of companies will work on the wrong things first. So I go back to audits. It's really like, even at it's very simple. I mean, even if you do it yourself, there's audit paperwork. You just go through this checklist and say, are we doing these things, and do we have to do these things, or do we want to do those things? And some education on your staff. Those are very important pieces.
Thank you, Chris. I'd like to turn to Marty. Marty, so you have a lot of experience in helping companies go paperless. And when a company is totally on paper or partially on paper, and they have archives, and we know that there are some companies, they have paper, archives for saving the paper-based information documents that they have. So if they're gonna actually digitize those paper-based information, so where they should start from? Is there any strategy that they should follow that you would share?
Well, they have to start some sort of an implementation plan and look at the documentation they have and see which is their biggest pain. Is it they are constantly getting calls, and they are having documents that have to be researched constantly? Maybe they have to look at those documents. Maybe they're concerned about the security of their files. So they have to pick the area of the most pain and start there. Scanning is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's just something that should take a long time to do. So you go by application. You get yourself a decent document management software to control the documentation and find the information and provide security to the information so you can work remotely. And then you take that application, you put it in place, and learn to get comfortable and work with it. And once that becomes, you become comfortable with that application, you go to the next application, and you tell everybody in the company what you're doing. By doing that, they also want to become on board. But you take the area that's the most pain, most hurt. It could be that it's costing you a tremendous amount of space, and you want to limit the space. Or maybe it's, as I said before, security, or it's retrieval of information. So you look at the documents that you have and say, which is the most important application for me to start with? And you start an implementation plan. Maybe you want to start with a small project because you don't want to get involved with a very long one. You want to start with a small one and see how it works. Start that way. I mean, there's just a lot of different ways of looking at it. But you do it by project, and not try and scan everything at once.
Marty.
Kevin?
Yes, I'm here. Okay, great. Marty, thank you. So
I hope that answered the question.
Yes. Thank you, Marty. So what I like to do is, before we close our session and end our meeting, I like to turn to our panelists if they have any final thoughts that they like to share. Alex, anything you'd like to share before we end our meeting?
No, I just want to just summarize that I think everybody's pretty much on the same wavelength. And I think it was very interesting to hear all the various opinions. So I really appreciate being on the panel and listening to all the other experts for their thoughts. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for joining. Chris?
Well, I mean, I just like I said, I'm trying to keep a positive attitude on what's going on and looking out towards the future. That there's a lot of good things that can come from this, and really trying to look and help our businesses focus on how they can become better and deal with this next time. You know, we're an organization. I want to say we're lucky because we are essential, but also in the past we've been hit with some calamities. We had a tornado hit a building and 2 floods in our offices. So we were prepared, and we want to be able to share that preparedness with our customers and you know, the people of the HIA or the members of the HIA. So if you have any questions about that stuff, feel free to give us a call. I'll certainly spend time with you. I love to be able to help the businesses make it through a time like this.
Thank you, Chris. Also, what we do is we keep the contact information on the screen. So after this webinar, if you like to contact our panelists, if you like to ask questions, you can continue this conversation. Frank, would you like to share any of your thoughts
just thank you again for having me on this panel. I think it's you know, obviously it's a relevant topic for everybody, and any insights that anybody, you know, if there's any questions, please feel free to contact. But I think the key is, you know, risk assessment. You know, always consider what if, and always think about how you have to reinvent your business.
Absolutely. Thank you, Frank. Yes, that's an important point, definitely. Thank you, Frank, for joining us. I appreciate it. Jay?
I'd like to say thanks, Kevin, for having me on the panel. I learned a lot today from the other panelists, and as we look to the next normal, I just hope we get there quickly. Whatever it's going to bring, I'm ready for it, and let's go.
Thank you, Jay. Much appreciated. John?
Yep, I just wanted to thank you, Kevin, and the group. And yeah, it was very insightful. I definitely learned a lot from all the speakers. And yeah, if anyone wants to continue the conversation on sales and marketing, and you know, how we can you know, sharpen your toolbox for the next year and get things on track, yeah, reach out to me. I'd love to talk.
Thank you, John. Manny?
Thanks, Kevin, and Ron, for inviting me. Thanks to the panel. It was terrific, learned a lot, and thank you to all the attendees. Just remember, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. So, you know, we're all here. We're still kicking today. Some of the things that we've learned in these, you know, past couple of weeks have, I'm sure, made us better, and, you know, we'll continue getting stronger still. Anybody that wants to give me a shout and talk about cloud or anything else, I'd be more than willing to do that. And God bless all.
Thank you, Manny. Marty?
First off, I want to thank you and Ron for inviting me to the panel, and thank all the panelists for all the information they gave. And Kevin and Ron, I know it takes a lot of effort to do this, so thank you, and all the attendees that are listening. And I just want to say that, you know, this is a tough time that everybody's going through. And we're here today to help businesses operate more efficiently tomorrow. So if there's anything anybody would like to know about digitizing and scanning records, to give us a call, contact us, and we'll try and help them out. And just everybody stay safe and stay strong out there.
Thank you, Marty. I appreciate it. I'd like to thank again to our panelists. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your insights. We all appreciate you for sharing your thoughts, your ideas. I'd like to thank our attendees for joining us. Thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you in our coming HIA-LI manufacturing committee meetings. Thank you very much and have a nice day.